More chips, don't let the salad win. That's the message in terms of nature of the food maybe that we consume in Wales.
Wrexham, Wrexham, Wrexham.
He's done it, the magic little man, Watkin. Oh, he scored! Steve Watkin has got a goal!
Ball breaks for Bowden, it's in early, as Rush likes it, and he'll chase it, he'll collect it, Ian Rush!
Bennett, and that's a second for Wrexham. Well, classic, changing defence into attack.
Conley! 1-0 to Wrexham, Carl Conley's done it!
Trundle for options, put it back to Morel. Oh, it's a good save! Oh no, it is, and it's in the back of the net. Andy Morel. What a goal! What a goal! What a goal from Al Ross and Cardiff! Folks, good wake your kids up. Something special is happening here tonight. Wales are going into the semi-finals of the European Championship.
Wanagati, Ferguson has definitely won it for Wrexham now.
Here's Mendy! There's that race-class roll again! Saved! Saved by Foster!
Wales are going to the Euros next summer. Wilkinson's wonderful Welsh women.
Wales! Wales have done it! They've reached the World Cup! It's him again! Champions! Wrexham are promoted! They have their storybook ending!
The first team in history to eat more chips and not let salad win.
Hello and welcome to the Eat More Chips podcast, the official podcast, one of the most recognisable flags in the Welsh football supporters universe. In a week when officials in Cyprus estimate there is roughly one feral cat for every one of its 1 million inhabitants, though activists contend the actual population is hundreds of thousands higher. In late September, the island's Parliamentary Committee on the Environment was told that an existing sterilisation programme is too limited to contain the burgeoning cat population. It's a good programme, but it needs to expand, said Environment Commissioner Antonio Thesadou, noting that the programme conducts only about 2,000 sterilisations annually on a budget of just €100,000, which is $117,000. While there is no official comparative data, Thesalidou said Cyprus has gained a reputation for having a cat population that is exceptionally large relative to its human inhabitants. Cyprus has a long history as a cat-loving nation, where cat food dispensaries and clusters of tiny houses are a regular sight along popular footpaths. A monastery that serves as a feline safe haven, St. Nicholas of the Cats, still exists today. Cats a problem? You need an anti-pussy magnet. Try these two. It's Jamie and Daz.
I wonder where you're going with that.
I didn't know you knew my auntie.
Don't mention cats to me. My cat's a dick.
I was going to say, we know how Jamie deals with cats. He tries to hit him with a broom, apparently, allegedly. I don't
Allegedly.
know allegedly, absolutely. Gentlemen, welcome. Another week, another load of fun. Unless you actually went to the games, which we'll talk about in a minute. First of all, though, just wanted to pull up the giant mural celebrating one of Wrexham Football Club's greatest players has been painted on the side of the Turf pub. Joey Jones, obviously, who died in July, aged 70, was known as Mr. Wrexham, having made 370 league appearances for the club over 3 decades, winning 72 caps for Wales. Liverpool artist Paul Curtis took 4 days to recreate a photo of Jones's signature fist-bumping goal celebration. Football fans from around the world donated over £5,000 for the artwork on the side of the Turf Hotel, which adjoins the Racecourse Stadium, of course. Paul Curtis has created murals for many football clubs. He's created football-themed street art for clubs like Liverpool, Everton, Tranmere Rovers, Ipswich and Bradford. Working alone with spray cans, some tins of paint and a hydraulic hoist, he's transformed the pub's exterior. People always ask me which is the hardest bit. It's actually doing text on Pebble Dash. It's like painting across a mountain range, he joked. The image is based on a photo of Joey Jones's goal celebration. It was crowdfunded by supporters, not just in Wrexham, but all across Wales, America, Canada, Australia. The donations have come in from literally every part of the world. And any money left over will be shared among local grassroots football charities, as those organisations were also closest to Joey Jones's heart. First one for you, Daz. He's an icon. He's a Liverpool icon. And Paul says, I'm from Liverpool. I know, but Joey Jones is like I got Liverpool, and we see a lot of these around Liverpool, don't we? Which I would imagine Paul's probably drawn. I mean, this definitely stacks up with one of the greats, doesn't it, as a mural goes?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think, if you look at some of the murals that are around the country, there's some that are pretty, shall we say, less flattering of the of the subject, whereas this is spot on. I mean, it's just a fantastic replication, of that iconic image, and I'm amazed that there's not been one on that particular on the pub before in that way, because obviously it's an iconic location. So I suppose it was about getting the right person for the right pub, and you couldn't get a better combination than that. Adored, in Liverpool as well, like you said, the first Welshman to win a European title. So, it's a lot of crossovers for me. But what a fantastic location, and what a great job he's done.
I mean, Jamie, this is an iconic photograph, and it is the pose. It is Joey Jones's well-known pose. And as Daz just said, a fantastic location. As you drive in down the Mold Road, you come to the football ground, and it's there right in front of you. And it's the first now of many. The town now is really becoming quite a hotbed of street art around Wrexham football, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, this is all right, isn't it? I could have probably done it for half the price, but no, I absolutely cannot wait to see this in the flesh. I've seen loads of pictures. I've seen loads of people who have been and taken pictures of it. I've not been anywhere near the ground for a while, but I can't wait to see this in the flesh. I mean, it is absolutely brilliant, really, really good. And like you just said, we are blessed in Wrexham, with Liam Stokes-Massey as well, who is responsible for a lot of the others that are in and around the town. It's as crazy as it sounds. We spoke before about Wrexham being like a tourist destination now. It's a great thing to have all these murals dotted around the town for people to be able to go and visit and see, have a picture taken next to them and everything else. But no, this is a brilliant addition to the murals that are already around the town. And like I say, absolutely fitting that it is where it is on the turf. I think you might have mentioned it when you were moonlighting on Racecourse Ramble last night, that a lot of people now coming into Wrexham down that Mold Road, it's the first thing they're going to see. And I mean, what a sight to see when you've got that, and then hopefully in the coming months, not just behind it, you're going to see this brand spanking new cop stand as well. Be nice if they light that up, maybe put some lights above it so that it's lit up when it's dark. Whether they plan on doing that, I don't know. But yeah, it's absolute, no pun intended, it's a work of art, isn't it? It's brilliant.
Thursday night, 7,000 crazy Cymru fans traipsed their way all the way down the motorways to the English capital, to London, to take on England in a friendly, and I use the word friendly in obviously quotes because that's the only way to say it. Interesting one, this one. Not excited to start with, and that excitement drained away quite quickly. Daz, let's first of all look at the lineup, shall we? What at the time I thought was a fairly strong starting 11. Probably only Jay De Silva was probably the only one I was kind of thinking, but with the injuries and whatever, particularly with Dan missing, I'm thinking, well, maybe that's the right thing to do. That's fine. Did you have any surprises with this starting 11?
No, I think there's some, consistency here with the team he's been playing recently. Obviously, with Liam Cullen being in there, he went with Keith and Moore to start, which is often a decision whether or not you do start with your big man or not. Brennan Johnson's been performing well for Tottenham. Brooksy's been good for Bournemouth and stuff. De Silva was probably the only notable. But with Connor not being there and other options, so whether or not you do have three at the back, four at the back, five, it just made sense to go like for like, have a winger and or a wing back, should we say, and then it's a pretty strong team. But we knew that any team against this England team at the moment was going to be, up against it. So it had to be. I think it was interesting that Bellas was talking about playing a full strength team quite a long way, earlier in the week, in terms of his press conferences. So he always said he was going to give this a proper go. I think a lot of us fans were kind of questioning whether or not that was wise with such a big game coming up afterwards. But he didn't hold back. So, he stood by his word. So, fair play to the guy. That's what he said. And that's what he did.
Absolutely. Did he get a reward? No, he didn't. My £80, to be fair, did buy me a decent seat. This was my seat. I was literally on the first section of the tier, so nobody in front of me at all. Although you'll notice in front of me, there's a nice, beautiful open railing. And the second I tried to put the flag out, I was told no. And I asked why. And they said, because it obstructs. And I said, obstructs what? I said, because you're in behind the viewing platform for our disabled patrons. And I said, yes, but it's behind them. So it doesn't obstruct. So it doesn't matter. We don't allow flags behind this area. So I wasn't allowed to put the flag up. There were some flags on the very, very front down here. But I didn't see any flags higher up, and I say I wasn't allowed to put the flag there. That started me off, to be brutally honest.
You know what you're like when the fun police come in, though. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And then you'll see in a minute the footy scran, which is something to behold. So you'll see that in a minute, and then of course the ref blew the starting whistle, and it went rapidly downhill from there. I'm just going to describe the match, guys, rather than step it, and then we're just going to talk about it, because otherwise I'll get into a rage and we won't get anywhere. So the whistle blew off. We started incredibly well for about 90 seconds. We got at them, we were, in their faces. And then for some reason, we just stopped. It looked like we stopped playing, and England ran us ragged for 20 minutes. They got a 3-goal lead in 20 minutes, which just kills the game, absolutely kills the game. Aston Villa's Morgan Rogers built on his display in Serbia by turning home the opening goal from Gue's cross after just 3 minutes, which was, again, such a soft goal, and I'll ask your opinion on all goal in a second. England doubled the lead then from a close range shot, 8 minutes from Watkins, which was, by that point, you're kind of thinking, 1-0, okay, it's a bit of a shock. We've seen this before. We're not quite awake, but that's fine. We'll get back into it. After 2-0, you're thinking, oh, okay, this makes it really, really difficult. And then when Saka hit that massively, long range curling shot into the top corner, past Carl Darlow, that's it. You're just thinking 3-0, 20 minutes. This is what we need to do now. Is we need to protect it, because this could be horrendous, and it was horrendous enough as it was, being 3-0 down after 20 minutes. Rogers also hit the woodwork. Wales did improve in the second half, to be fair, but I think that was more that England basically went, yeah, we don't have to bother anymore, and that reflected in the fact that the crowd didn't bother either. They were there, but they didn't really engage from that point of view. And once the subs came in, we did slightly better, but there was never any chance. It was just, for me, it was massively disappointing. I'm just going to give my 10 pence first. It was massively disappointing, because I feel we can perform better than that. I understand, and you've got to remember, I saw a stat this week that in the 21st century, England have only ever lost 7 qualifiers, just 7. Out of the 100+ games they've played in qualifiers. So to get anything from them is going to be difficult. So I was, even though I joked in the pod last week that I would never ever bet against Cymru, and I never would, in my back of my head, I'm thinking, yeah, we're not going to win this. But what I wanted to see was a performance ready for the Belgian game. That's what I was expecting. And we didn't see that for 20 minutes. The defense was virtually non-existent. And that for me was the problem. I'll get your thoughts on this in a minute. The one good thing about it was the fact that the 7,000 Cymru fans, we were all into it. I didn't take my shirt off, by the way, before anybody asks. I had my scarf and I waved my scarf around, but I didn't take my shirt off because there was no, what you can't see by the guy on the left there, there's an old woman right next to me. I didn't want to expose her to my boobs.
I thought she might have had a harpoon or something. Yeah.
But the 7,000 Cymru fans all the way through to the 96th minute were properly going for it. Whereas after 60 minutes, most of the England fans left. And it was like a graveyard, which I think is incredibly it's odd. I can't get that. You know, your side are winning 3-0 against one of your closest, your physically closest rivals, and you don't even bother staying for the full match when you're 3-0 up and enjoy and celebrate. I don't understand that at all. And again, I'm hoping that you will give me some clarity. Let's get your take on this first, Az. Take on how you saw the game. What was your general feeling on watching this?
Yeah, I mean, I hold all the frustrations that you hold about the lack of conviction and performance that we were hoping for. I appreciate. I was being realistic. You know, they are, like you said, they are a quality side. We weren't meant to go there and get a result. That's not how it works. You go to England, play at Wembley. It takes a special team to. I do think they're beginning to click. They're scarily good, considering they're not. And it's probably the cause of why they're good is that they're not relying on your Bellinghams. They're not relying on Harry Kane. You know, there's actually quite the team spirit there at the moment. They've got a lot of players.
Consistency, innit? Consistency. He's keeping a lot of the same teams now, the same players now in the squads.
Yeah, but I think also it's there's no, like in the old England sides would have like a core of Liverpool, core of Man City, core of Man U, or whatever it was. Whereas now actually, you know, you've got players there who are Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, you know, Newcastle. There's actually a broader range, and I think they're all there on merit. They all know they have a place and a part to play, and he's got them ticking, which is really exciting if you're English, which is what makes me so horrified by the fact that the fans don't get behind them and stay and they enjoy some quality football, because, you know, but that's, yeah, I'll come back onto that. But no, I think the disappointment for me was, it did feel like they were overwhelmed by the occasion. I know Wembley's a historic place and stuff like that, but it's you know, they've been to big grounds. These players, they've played at big clubs. You know, so some of them actually, you know, that is, you know, Brennan Johnson plays at, you know, the Tottenham Stadium and stuff. That's a huge stadium. You know, you've got players that play in and out of those kind of size of grounds. Okay, Wembley is that little bit more, but still. So why did they look so dazed and confused? But I think the gutter punch was gutter punch even, but is that first goal was such a soft one to concede. You know, they thought the ball was going out, whereas England kept, you know, they desperately kept it in, and the pullback was straightforward. This pullback was obvious, and he still had to slot it through about 4 or 5 players, and it just went clean through. And so that to me is the annoying thing, is that they gave away such an easy. It was an easy goal for them. You know, it was a soft goal, and once you've given them the head start, your game plan has to change. Then you're not trying to sort of stay in the game and try and see if you can get them on the counter, because we know we can attack, we know we can play, you know, score goals against some quality sides, but defense wise, we were disorganized. We were just, you know, so already then your head's in a different headspace, and equally England's headspace was just like, great, nice easy start, let's keep going. And then the second goal was soft as well. I don't mind the third goal. Third goal's a bit of quality.
No, it was a piece of skill. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. You know, that lovely touch, give him an extra bit of space, and he curls it round. I mean, nobody's saving that. That he can have that one. So it's 1-0. You know, but the other two just seems really, really soft. And of course, they're purring. Then they feel like they've got this, and they were playing passes that you only play when you're 2-0, 3-0 up. But they were actually pulling them off as well, because the confidence was there. They've got the skill level, their intensity, and their, you know, was amazing for 20, 25, 30 minutes. It was full on. I mean, it looked incredible. And I can see why they buckled, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to ask the question though, Daz. You know, obviously, like you rightly said, Bellamy said he's going to go all out because that's the way he plays. He doesn't sit back; he goes all out. We didn't get a chance to go all out for 20 minutes because we were pretty much pinned back. We've seen teams who've gone to Wembley, like Andorra, and parked the bus and have done better than us, better than we did. Was Bellamy's go out and go get him tactic, was that the right tactic for this game?
In a friendly, yeah, you can do what you want. I genuinely think in a friendly you can do what you want. I think if this was a qualifier, I think we're having a different conversation, because the result is so paramount. And I know you're saying about Andorra, but they don't have any other option. At the moment, we've got a side that's got options, and we have got attacking flair. And where there is an element of low risk in that sense. There was risk to it, of course. Heads dropping, confidence shocked and rocked before going into the Belgium game is a gamble. It is an absolute gamble. But I also think it was a free pass. We absolutely knew that there was no expectation from anywhere other than our small community to think that we even have half a chance. Everybody else is writing us off before we go in. And their quality of players meant that technically should have been the case. The fact that it was so intense and they were 3-0 up 20 minutes, I'd like to think it was 1-0 or something by half time, maybe. Then we're still in it, maybe hoping for an equaliser. But no, as soon as you give that kind of lead so early on, there's some youth in our team, which means, are they used to that kind of experience? Can they keep playing? Can they keep playing for the whole 90 minutes, thinking this is going to be one of the longest 90 minutes we've ever played? So, no, to answer your question, I think he can do whatever he wants in that sense, because he wanted to know how good his attack was, and against a world-class team, which I don't like saying this, but
no.
a world-class.
I've just been sick in my mouth as well, just thinking about it.
Yeah. But for a world-class team like that, the idea of trying to test yourself against them, he's got his answer. But it's worth it. I do think it's worth it, because the likelihood, if we get to a World Cup, we're going to be playing some quality sides, and so we need to know what level our game is against them. I mean, Belgium are not the team that England are at the moment, so it was. I think it was okay to do it, but as long as it was loaded with the caveat of "Don't worry, we'll get through this. This is how we're going to do it." But of course, like you said, second half, there were some changes. But even before the changes, all the players started playing better. And I do question whether or not if England could have kept that intensity for the whole 90. I doubt it. It was so full on for that first half.
They were.
And I'm not surprised they backed off a bit, because you've got a 3-0 win, but I don't think they could have. So they had to capitalise. But the fact that we gave 2 of those goals away, if it was 1-0 at half time, and they'd given us that intensity and we'd survived it, I don't know. That second half would have been an interesting affair, I think.
Do you feel there was, I felt this, and I don't know whether it was just because I was quite negative after 20 minutes, but did you feel there was a lack of passion from the Cymru players? At times when you really wanted them to go at players, get in their faces, get a bit physical, they were just kind of strolling around and passing on the back, and a few times they did have the ball. I'm just thinking, why does it look like you're not up for this game, whereas in the past we've seen England-Wales games which have been absolutely 110 mile an hour full on?
Because I think England will play through that. I think England have got the quality to do that. I think Wales recently have shown us that they can do possession. They can do possession and passing. They can hold their own. And yes, okay, there's been a couple of wobbly moments each time, but all the teams have that. But I think actually we're quite good at that. And what we need now is to know how to capitalize on our runners, which I think we did a lot better on Monday. But play with the pace, play with the runners, and know when that pass needs to be played. I think there was too many times when players were open and they're not putting that, because there is a nervousness about giving the ball away. There is a nervousness of, like, if I make a mistake now, this is going to be 4-0 or 5-0, and that's a hard. But they put themselves in that position by going 3-0 down so quickly. So, but equally, I just think against the quality side, our players still have a certain amount of imposter syndrome. I think. I don't know if it's clear to all the players that they have got the capacity, they got the capability to play against these good sides, but they know who these guys are. They play against, most of them play against them every week, or a good chunk of them play against them every week. So they know what the quality of these guys are. It's hard because I always I worry about full-on red-blooded passion sometimes, especially in the friendly, because you don't need to give away yellows. You don't need to be reckless. I don't think that everything was on the line in that way. But I just think England just clicked. There is something about what they were doing was better. Like I say, we showed some of that in the second half. There were some real, decent passages of play. you looking at the stats there. We had a number of shots. And the goalkeepers only both had 2 saves each. There weren't actually a huge amount of England shots on target. It's just that 2 of them we gave dead easy open goals virtually. One of them was a worldie, and then the other 2 he saved. So, it's if you look at it in some eyes, that if you take away those 2 mistakes, we weren't too far away. But we know
if you were to give it a mark out of 10, what comment and mark would you give it?
2 different marks for each half. First half was probably a 2 or a 3, really. They were so off the pace, and then they were rocked and they were shaken. I think they regrouped, and I think against probably pushing 6 maybe by the second half.
I said to somebody as I was leaving, well, at least we won the second half 0-0. Jamie, what was your thoughts on this? Because obviously I imagine you watched it at home. What did you make of all this?
I think, in fairness to Daz, he's epitomising his glass half full mantra there with that summary. I don't disagree in the sense of first half, second half from what he's just said. And to be fair, everything he said is spot on, and what you said as well. It's hard really to add anything. It was pretty obvious to see, wasn't it? I think interestingly, when you showed the lineup at the beginning there, and you were talking about the lineup, you both kind of said that Bellamy was true to his word with what he said about going for it in the sense of the team that he put out. But then I suppose the question is there to be asked about, well, where has it gone wrong? Does it fall on his shoulders? Does it fall on the players' shoulders? Is it just the fact that the opposition was far, far better? I don't know, maybe a mixture of all 3. I mean, that first 25 minutes was painful to watch. The only saving grace was I didn't spend 90 quid to watch it in person like some people did.
Thanks.
But
and travel and everything else. In all, right? I didn't get much. By the time I bet, and by the time I caught all the trains and everything, I didn't get much change out of £210 to go and watch that one match. That's how expensive.
Hell, mate, 210 quid.
Fucking hell, mate.
No, it was a painful. Wherever you were watching it, it was that first half in particular. The first 25 minutes was a painful watch. I mean, the only thing I could think of when Saka curled that ball in was my 3-1 might be on here. But like you guys have said, the first 2 goals are just poor at any level, aren't they? You can through gritted teeth you can throw plaudits and be kind and nice to England and the fact they played brilliantly in that first half, and particularly that first sort of half an hour. They were brilliant. You can't deny it. And some of their big players really did turn it on. But you can't give goals away like those first 2 goals at any level, let alone international level. I think Bellamy and the players will be very, very disappointed with those first 2 goals because they, like Dad said, they were completely avoidable, unnecessary to give away, and really put us on the back foot because again, you do think to yourself, if you go in maybe 1-0 down at half time, can you change it? A few words, some tactical tweaks at half time, and we did improve in the second half. I guess there's that question of, did we improve dramatically in the second half, or did England, were they already in the cars on the way home,
on the bus on the way home?
So it's one of them. And then when you throw Saka's goal in, which that was just a firm reminder that they possess world-class footballers, because that goal is unbelievable. It's the simplest of techniques. Little touch, get out under his feet, but the technique is unbelievable. And like you said, absolutely no goalkeeper is stopping that in a million years. But to go in 3-0, I agree with you in the sense of what frustrated me most at half time was, yes, we were 3-0 down. And if you're 3-0 down because you've been completely outplayed and outperformed, you're playing against superior opposition, fair dues, sometimes you just have to take your medicine. But And that was true to a point, but my overwhelming thought was I just didn't feel like we turned up in that first half. To me, it didn't feel like we turned up. Now, whether that was because, and this is where I come back to that question of where who should take responsibility for that. But yeah, that first half was a painful watch. And again, like I said, second half there was an improvement. You have to try and pick some positives out of it. There was an improvement. There was some good passages of play. Like I just said, how much of that was down to Wales improving, how much of it was down to England completely have gone home, I don't know. But going back to what we were talking about last week with regards to was this good preparation, and I know we talked about we probably didn't have a choice in it, and there was suggestion of, well, if we get to a World Cup, we're going to be playing against top opposition, we want to test ourselves. And it's easy to say it now, but you do have to question the decision to play that game so close to the Belgium game, because I'm not saying it's what caused the result against Belgium at all, but it couldn't have helped. It couldn't have helped. But
well, this is a question actually I have for you, Daz. Because this is a bit of a no-win scenario. Some fans are saying, "What a stupid idea! Going to London on a Thursday with nothing in it." Risking getting a battering, which is not good for morale, blah, blah, blah. And other people are saying he has to play a game. He can't, you have to play one. You can't just say, I'm not playing it. You have to play away. This was the easiest game physically to get to because he could play a day earlier compared to Belgium, who played the next day. You could play against top opposition, yes. So that obviously, you're exposing the players, as you rightly said, to a much higher skill level than we're currently at. So actually, it was the right thing to do. Where do you sit? In which camp do you sit?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely with the second camp because we mentioned it last week. The travel was always going to be on his mind, and I think that was a savvy move. I do think it was a savvy move to play a day earlier. The recovery time for the players. That's got to have factored in the Belgium game. Could they have found another opponent? Well, they can't go to Scotland because Scotland were in qualifying groups, so they already had an opponent at home. So it wasn't, there are combinations in the whole process. They had to play an away game because it was their turn. How easy do you want it? You could just literally train at your home training ground, turn up for the game, go back, and then continue training where you were. You didn't.
I mean,
wouldn't even have to take your kit.
It wouldn't have been better because I think Romania were one of the sides that have been available. It wouldn't have been beneficial really to fly halfway across Europe to go and play a side that you were probably going to beat, but how much is that going to stretch you? And then have to fly all the way back. So you're suddenly something that basically they could have done training night before. Got in the bus, driven down, done the thing, driven straight back. They're back on the training field the next day. Whereas you go to Romania, it's 2 or 3 days out of your schedule, and you've got the tiresome travel. So that to me makes sense.
Well, this conversation though is not a great way of looking at it, is it? Because all we're talking about here is like what's the best for the logistics and everything else. Surely every game you play, whether it's a friendly, home or away, surely you want to try and get something out of it. And
yeah, but he was.
I'm not sure what did he get out of it.
He said. But that's what he said. He said he wanted to get exposing the Cymru players to teams that he's, in it, as Daz rightly said, if we get to a World Cup finals or we get to a Euros, at some point we're going to be playing teams that are in the world's top 10.
Yeah. It's like you only have to look at the women's game in the Euros. They have played France not that long ago, but they went to a Euros where they were completely outplayed by all the team. I know they were in a group of death. I know it's slightly, but they had to play against some quality sides that they're not used to playing, and they were shown up. And I just think, why not play a quality side? Learn what you can or can't do. Whether or not it went well, I think that's a different argument here. I do think that whether or not he achieved, because did he have his best squad? Possibly not. Did he have his, first choice Connor or Dan James or whatever? Probably, so there could have been some changes. But I think you have to work out what your team is capable of doing. And we've not done that yet, because even against Belgium, our top seed team in our group, they're not the quality of opponent that we're likely to face if we get through to a World Cup. So I do think he learned something. He might not like what he learned, and we certainly didn't enjoy watching the experience of him learning it. But I think he has to have learned something, and you know what he's like. He's a proper student of the game. He'll be clipping that up no end, to the point where he'll be playing that back to every one of the players, going, "That's what we need to work on. That's what we need to work on." And yeah, so he got an extra day's worth of training. He got a bit of extra days worth of rest, whatever. I think that's worth it. I think that's worth it. The fact that it's to our neighbours is absolutely galling. The fact that it's our old enemy, and now I've got a whole bunch of English people who kind of go, "Oh, look at you with your team." Yeah, my skin's thicker than that. I'd be all right with that. But I hope the players can do that as well at club level. But I think they do. I think everybody knows we're not the big team. We're not a big nation. We don't have the population. We don't have the heritage in that way. So it's a big ask. It's a big ask to play against. What are England now? Are they top 3, 4? I can't remember what they are in the world at the moment.
I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, they are ridiculously tipped for to do well in the World Cup. They are absolutely tipped to do well in the World Cup. So, we've got to learn. We've got to learn. Whether or not they achieved it, I get your point, Jamie. I get your point, but he's got to try.
And now it's time for the away day footy scran review.
So here we are then at Wobbly Stadium, and of course you've got to have an away day footy scran review. So what did we go for? Well, we went for a massive dog's dick with some onions on it, and the price, Daz, close your ears, £10.80. Yes, £10.80. Right, I'm going to eat this, and I'll tell you what it's like later. It better be bloody good for £10.80. So, if somebody asks me what it's like to be smacked in the dick repeatedly for 45 minutes, I don't know how that feels. That was a terrible, terrible half. Anyway, footy scran review. Guess what? Rubbish. Your £10 hot dog. The sausage was overcooked, so you could pretty much beat somebody to death with it. The onions were freezing cold, and the bread was stale. It was awful. I got massive indigestion after it, not helped by a goal after 2 minutes. 3 fryers out of 10, and I'm being generous. Not value for money, not very nice, not particularly appetizing. And I know some of you might be thinking, well, maybe it's because you're 3-0 down at half time, and that's why you're in a bad mood. No, trust me, I wouldn't use it as a draft excluder. It was terrible. So, let's hope the second half's better. Please. Oh. And it wasn't.
Wow.
I know, Dad. I know. Whoa, good. Hang on a sec. Daz is just recovering from £10.80. I know, mate. I know. It was horrendous.
Two things on that. I know you were down there, London, and I know they eat some funny things down there. But you paid £10.80 basically for a donkey dick on a bat. Yeah. What was that? It looked nothing like a fucking sausage.
No. I think what it was, I think a police riot baton had accidentally stuck itself in the tray, because that's what it tasted like. It was rock hard. Absolutely. And, and I'm normally rock hard anyway. Wink, wink. But not like that. It was just...
I mean, how it's not the dish that you get wrong. How can you get that so wrong?
I know. The thing is, there wasn't even a bit of it where I thought, okay, well, at least this is all right. Every single part of that was awful. And it was virtually... It's only because I paid £10.80 for it, I ate the lot. And I'm thinking, I am not wasting this after I paid £10.80 for it, even though it's going to give me another heart attack, because it's basically going to get stuck in my gullet because it's all so horrendous. Because it was just horrible. And everybody said to me beforehand, oh, the food at Wembley Stadium is really good. No, it's not. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Do you know what? It's no steak in it, was it?
It was no steak in it. No, it wasn't. If we don't get a sponsorship, I'm going to be very disappointed. No, so yes, 3 fryers out of 10, and I was being generous. And I mean, on reflection, it should have just been 1, but I'll stick with 3 for now.
Editorial. Take it down to 1.5.
I think it should be. I think you're right. I think I will. When I've done a chart already. I've not got it for this week. It'll be for next week because I'm going to Stoke on Saturday. So on the chart, I'll change.
Fucking hell.
Don't. I'd watched us get pummeled 3-0, and then I got indigestion, having been robbed £10.80. And that's not, obviously, that's without a drink. Because what I didn't put in there is I also got a bottle of pop with it. That was £3.70 for a normal bottle of pop.
I just love the fact it's £10.80. £10 isn't extortionate enough. So let's just and a bit.
And a little bit more.
And a bit. And a bit.
Horrendous.
Awful.
So Sunday saw Wrexham go to the Globe in Buckley to take on Cardiff City Women. 2 changes in the lineup for the Sunday. Maz Mahmood came in for Cara Jones, and Clark came in for Davis. Daz, any surprises on that for you, or pretty much now? Because she was tinkering a little bit because she went to 4 at the back. So she's obviously still trying to find what kind of works and what doesn't. But she's now starting to get a block now of players where you're thinking, they're going to start every week now.
Yeah, there's going to be a core, absolutely. But I do think different teams also require different formations. I don't think you can just simply go with your strongest team each time. So I like the fact that she's got some options, and yes, a little tinker here and there just to make sure that you've got you keep the opponents on their toes as well. You don't make it so obvious. But I think we know that we've also seen different versions of the attacking coming on from the bench, and midfields being strengthened from at different times. So it's I think you're right. There's a core, but I think this is probably one of their strongest lineups that they have now, I think.
Well, it was a very, very competitive game, right from the off, really. Both sides absolutely going toe-to-toe with each other. 5 minutes in, Cardiff crossed the box with a very, very low stinging cross, but nobody could get on the end of it to turn it in. But not long after that, an incredibly fine passing move led to Wrexham's opening chance. Daz, not sure if you've seen the highlights or whatever, but the pass from this... from the back just was absolutely incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It was. We've seen it as well that Barker plays that line really well. When a team is playing even remotely, some teams play higher than others. If you give Wrexham that little bit of space behind your defence, then the ball over the top, the through ball, whichever option they're looking at, Barker's got the pace and has got clearly the capacity to finish, because it's a lovely, lifts the ball neatly over the goalkeeper, because the keepers tried their best to get to the ball in before Barker. So the timing is everything. The weight of that pass into the space, and it's a really, really. I thought at one point it was going to bounce and go over the bar at one point, but it was a good quality finish. But we're beginning to see what Barker's all about, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Jamie, the thing that I was delighted about with this is that, we take ourselves back 12 months and we'd not managed to beat Cardiff, and they were a bit of a monkey on our back with it's kind of like there's Cardiff at that level and then everybody else is below them. Since then, we've beaten them, and Sunday we absolutely went toe-to-toe with them, didn't we?
To be fair, the question you've asked me is absolutely stealing the one sort of thing I was going to say about this. From the bits I've seen, I've only managed to catch a bit of the highlights. And from what I've read from sort of people that were there, I agree. I think the game on Sunday was a real kind of eye opener as to kind of how far this Wrexham team have come. When you think, like you say, 12 months ago, and even prior to that, when we got back in, or when we got into the Adran Premier, Cardiff were like the monsters, weren't they? They were the one team that everybody feared, that nobody could beat. And I believe from what I saw and from what I've heard about Sunday, we more than went toe to toe with them, and probably were unlucky not to get the 3 points. I think I think I said it last week or the week before. I think what is, and this is with the greatest respect to Steve Dale and what he achieved at Wrexham, but I think we're on a whole different level now from a tactical point of view. I think you've commented on the last few weeks tinkering with the team and stuff, but I genuinely think this part of it has been finding best players for best positions. But I do also think that a lot of it is being strategic, selection based on how she's tactically going to set the team up for the team she's playing. I think she's a very dynamic thinking, tactical manager. And it's quite refreshing to see, to be fair. So, from I'm sure you can probably fill in some gaps, but from what I heard and the bits I saw, we more than went toe to toe with Cardiff. So, fair play.
I think they've also, they're being given the confidence to sort of, the on the ball, they're confident playing small touches around the corners, that sort of. Passing it through midfield. There's not it's not always about hoofing it up to a player up front. It's not about clearing the lines. There's confidence in the back line to play it out as well.
I think we said it last week or the week before, didn't we? I think we all kind of agreed that there's a noticeable difference in the quality of play this year. The way that they perform, whether that's a consequence of the quality of players that she's brought in, or whether it's the way she got them playing. But the bits I've seen this season, there's a noticeable difference in the quality of the football that they're playing. Just kind of echoing what you're saying there, Daz, about it's less just hoof it up and hoof it forward. Yeah. There are some really, really, really nice, transitional moments from front to back or back to front, during these games, and really good football to watch, which is great to see, because it kind of elevates the overall quality of what we're seeing from the matches in the league.
And I think also a level of physicality as well. I think in the past there would have been, a shoulder to shoulder, a bit of contact here and there. They would have literally bounced off their opponents in a bit more. I think there's a certain steel about the midfield and defense, to be honest. So those 50-50s, shoulder to shoulder, running for the same ball, they're not being bounced off. They're holding their own. In fact, there was a couple of passages of play where I saw them really get stuck in, still not afraid to do the passes around the corners and get it through. But yeah, when you've got quality players on the ball in midfield, then Ederson then takes the ball in one of those situations and just turns around and sees all this space and plays it through. You can see that they can switch it if they need to. And Suckley finds a bit of running and gets into space and tries to do what she did against Swansea and tries to lob the keeper herself. Sadly going a little bit wide. There was quite a good few number of shots on target, perhaps too close at the keeper. If I'm going to be honest, there's a few. They're not listening to us about putting them in the bins, just getting them into those corners. So there was a few easier saves for the. I can't remember. What's the name of the Cardiff goalkeeper? Is it Billingham or something like that? I can't remember.
Chamberlain.
But anyway, Chamberlain. That's it. Thank you. So there was a few easy saves for there. But then equally, Lizzie Craven had a few decent saves as well. Proper, poking it over around the corner, around over the bar, rather than back into play. So she's clearly listening. Keep it up. Keep it up.
That's his seal of approval this week, Lizzie. Well done.
Absolutely. And well, maybe I don't know if there's anything else you want to add, but I the only bit I haven't seen is what the penalty was given for, because the highlights I've seen go from passage to play, and then suddenly they're taking a pen.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, your first half was played very much in the middle of the field. Second half, Cardiff upped the tempo. Wrexham absorbed that tempo more and tried to play, and there was a massive chance for another chance for Katie Barker, where again I thought she was going to score, and she tried to push it again over Chamberlain, and Chamberlain just about got her fingers to it and pulled it down into it. And you're kind of thinking all you needed was a couple more inches to get it over the top. So it was end to end to end to end in the second half, and you could tell that both sides were really, really tiring. And basically, what came in was Cardiff player coming into the box. Ava Suckley comes in, a very, very lazy leg to basically try and get the ball. Takes the player out, absolute penalty. You can't do that. But it looked very tired. It wasn't like an intentional kind of, I'm going to take the player out. It was more, I'm going to put my leg here to try and get the ball, and you took the player out, and you can't do that at any level, because the ref, without hesitation, gave the penalty straight away, which was massively disappointing because, as Jamie's just said, I think we were worthy of the 3 points. And I think that's the most disappointing thing for me to walk away from this, is that I thought that we should have had, we deserved the 3 points. We more than matched Cardiff's. Don't get me wrong, Cardiff absolutely were a threat. And there were times they were threatening, but we nullified the threat most of the time. You know, we did a lot in midfield. And you're right, Billingham is massively dangerous. You know, she's an incredibly dangerous player from that point of view. But we nullified her because we basically left her to do long shots, which is all she kind of really could do. And that's the kind of disappointing bit for me. 1-1 then at the end. 700 people at the Globe, which I think if you look at it, there is nobody in the men's Welsh League that has anywhere near that gate, I don't think. So again, fantastic advert for women's football in Cymru. Leaves the table with Wrexham and Cardiff still at the very, very top. TNS obviously then on 9 points. So we're already starting to see that gap open up. I mean, yes, I know Swansea have got their game that was postponed this week versus Ponty, which they're probably going to lose because Ponty just had an absolute. I don't know whether you saw any of Ponty's highlights.
So, yeah, I mean, if I'll share with Jamie only because I'm assuming he never saw it. But here, you know, you've got the team at the bottom of the table who's yet to get a point. Half time, they're winning 1-0. You think, come on, Ponty, you're doing this. You're doing this. Come on, you're doing this. 80, I think it was the 81st minute, they get a second goal, and you think, 80, you know, this has got to be Ponty's game. It's got to be Ponty's game. I think they was it Barry, wasn't it? Hang on, who are they playing?
I think it was Barry.
Yeah.
I'll check now.
I can't, do that because I've forgotten already. Yeah. They score in something like the 88th, the 89th, and the 94th plus 90 plus 4th. Literally concede 3 goals in the last 5 minutes of their game. You know, it was just the most shocking capitulation I think I've ever seen. I don't think
it was Barry. It was Barry.
It was Barry. I was right.
And then Jamie. So you lose 3-2 after that, and then the manager resigns. So it's
the thing is, I was going to say then, fair play, you just throw the towel in at that point. I didn't actually realise that the manager did actually resign. I mean, that. Where do you go from that? You know, where do you if you're like 1-1 or 2-2 and you can see the goal in a 90-something minute to lose the game that way, but to be 2-0 up with literally a few minutes to go and then lose, it is, that's not good, that is it?
Yeah.
So obviously, Wrexham have got a rest this week, although there are strong rumours that they may be playing Liverpool under 21 women's side in a friendly, which I think is behind closed. I imagine it's behind closed doors friendly. I can't imagine they'll send any tickets for that one. So again, that says to me, because most managers would go, "Well done, everybody. Take some time off. We'll see you back in training. Because you're doing really well. You know, you've only lost one game, and you're joint top of the league. So have some time off." But not Jenny Sugarman. She's basically saying, no. You're coming in, and you're going to play somebody of a much higher level to really push the players. Because I might imagine she's going to stretch players that probably don't play normal 90 minutes. She's going to give minutes to fringe players. I mean, that to me says exactly what Jamie just said about we are now on a completely different level management-wise.
Yeah, I mean, I would say they haven't played that many games. The season's only, starts much later than the men's season, so they've not played quite as many games. So to have a rest weekend, it feels a bit early for me anyway. So I think keeping that momentum going, staying fit, staying sharp, is key. I don't know what the under 21s level is in the women's game in that sense. So I don't know that comparison in terms of level. But you're right. I think it's an opportunity to test the broader fringes of the squad, I think, particularly. Or, again, like you said, trying those different formations and seeing which one works against a different opponent, and just maintaining that, I suppose, that confidence, that momentum, keeping that winning spirit going. You'd like to think they think they can compete. Otherwise, it it sort of draws parallels with the men's Wales game, but at least they've got a choice here. They've got a choice of who they can pick and choose and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's, it bodes really well. And I say the positivity, the ambition is clearly there. I guess they're semi-pro, so there's an element of, they're on the books. They've got to, they've got to keep it, stay committed to the cause and stay fit. Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see if we can get any news on that and see how they played. Because I say it's always interesting when you play a team from a different division or a different league, because you haven't got that baseline to compare yourselves.
So after the England game, we all wended our way back to the capital city to play what was a vital qualifier versus Belgium at the Cardiff City Stadium. Myself, Daz, and the flag were all there. Let's look at the starting 11 changes first. 4 changes from the loss versus England. Ben Cabango in for Liam Cullen, Jordan James in for Brennan Johnson, Mark Harris in for Kiefer Moore, and Sober Thomas for Jay De Silva. Surprised that we made that many changes, Daz, or was that a reflection of how Bella's thought that certain players played against England, or was it always part of the plan, do you think?
I think there's probably a bit of, but I think it was always part of the plan. I'm surprised it was that many, but I get it. I liked it. I was we spoke at the stadium. I said I was quite excited about the runners. I was quite excited about the pace. I was quite intrigued by the fact that Harris was chosen to be up front, because I know he's such a willing runner, and so there was clearly a tactic there to put their defense and particularly their goalkeeper under pressure all the time. And there were occasions where you could see that was working a treat. So I think some of it became fruitful. So yeah, so I think Cabango, he's had decent games recently, so has probably earned is caught up in the sense to starting 11. And possibly not his strongest game I've seen him play for us, but
was Mark Harris a surprise for you, because he's not a renowned goal scorer, is he, compared to somebody like a Kiefer Moore or a
but I think that's not what he was brought into the team for. I think he's there to occupy people. I think he's like I said, he's such a willing runner that he'll badger the goalkeeper, he'll force them into errors, and Courtois hoofed a few clearances wide on the fact that he was under pressure. But he had to distribute quicker than he would have liked to have done, because he's a big man. I don't think he's particularly fast as such, and I'm not entirely sure he's got, he's no gifted footballer with his feet in that sense, Courtois. So I think it was quite an interesting tactic, and I was surprised Harris played the duration. I thought he was clearly busting a gut first half. I'm thinking, right, he's going to go after 10-15 minutes in the second half, and for him to play the rest of it was just he really put a shift in, and he isn't that kind of player that brings you. It's a weird one to say that your number 9, your centre forward or whatever position, isn't somebody who scores goals, but
he's not really an attacker for me. He's not an attacker.
He brings other players into. He allows the space to occur. That's the thing. He takes defenders with him, because you can't not mark him, because on those occasions he's just going to be free to go on goal, and he can score. He can finish, and he's got he's got a decent return. In terms of good goals, what he hasn't got is numbers. He hasn't got quite the numbers like you suggest. But he can finish. So I like the way that they were thinking, right, you occupy the front line, cause the defense to have to make some decisions that allows space for the wingers. And Sorbo had a good start. He was taking on his opposite number, who was also quite quick though. I mean, there was they'd obviously done their either by default their right back is a really fast player, or they've made sure they brought somebody in to be just as quick, because he kept up with Sorba. There was a couple of chances, a good couple of crosses here and there, but he did keep him a little bit more quiet than usual. And I think Brooks had a success down the right hand side, with Harry Wilson running off in the inside of him quite a couple of times. So I think I liked the fact that we could run through the lines, run through the phases of those midfield into the attacking lines. And I thought it was just a sort of an exciting version of the game that we know Bellas is an attacking player, a manager as well, and so we were optimistic and hopeful that that's what he would do. But I quite like this version because, nothing against Kiefer. Kiefer brings us a different option, really effective option when we need him. But the Belgian defence are big players. I think they can hold. I think a big player like Kiefer would play into their pockets. I think. So I think they just they couldn't handle the more, the darting runs, the change of speed, the quick short passes, and I think that was we and it became quite fruitful. We gained really good territory to in the early phases, which got us which led to the first goal.
Well, an electric atmosphere at the Cardiff City Stadium, which is always great when there are nights like that, because it was certainly for the first 15 minutes, it was absolutely a cauldron, and it paid off because Cymru started incredibly well and took the lead in the 7th minute. Sober Thomas corner, straight in, up pops an unmarked Joe Roden towards the back post, heads it straight down at the floor, point blank range. Courtois didn't have a chance, straight in. Cymru go ahead 1-0. I mean, Jamie, when you saw that in, were you thinking, oh, well, here we go again. Nice and, the same as we've always done. But we seem to be Belgium's bogey team, and hey, presto, we're now proving that to be the case.
I apologise to the nation of Belgium for saying Belgium last week.
It's all right. I called De Bruyne a ginger ponce, and I'm not apologising for that.
Yeah,
so.
and to be fair, he well and truly, he might as well have run past you and give you one of them, because
absolutely,
he absolutely showed his class.
He listens to the pod as well, which is why I think
I'm
absolutely,
sure.
Yeah. Well, if you are listening, Kev, you're still it's all right.
Yeah, I saw a. Okay. Moving swiftly on. No, to be fair, like you just said, first 10 or 15 minutes was exactly what I was saying last week. Because if you remember last week, I went for a Wales win, and the reason why I went for a Wales win was because I thought it was going to be one of those nights where, at the CCS, the red wall, the atmosphere. I knew the atmosphere would be electric at the start, and I was confident we would get an early goal. And like you say, at the 15-minute point, I'm thinking, yes, this is exactly what I hope we would get. But then, slowly and surely.
Well, let's talk about it. I tried to get a still, and this is the best still I could get. Right. This is now the third, as it turned out to be, the third handball in 2 games versus Belgium, where we're giving away 3 penalties. Daz, I know you're probably going to say, well, the rules of the game state, blah, blah, blah. Is this right? Is this right?
No, I get right. Let's talk about the rules of the game. I understand it's away from his body, as in it's making his body larger. Yeah, because obviously he's turned sideways as well, which means that his profile is at its thinnest anyway. For you and I, it might have been a bit of a different argument. Sideways profile would have helped block more of the goal. But for an athlete like Ethan Ampadu, his hand being out like that. But if you watch the motion, if you watch the movement in that clip. He's running as runners do. Their hands.
And you're doing it there. You're doing it with your hands there. That's what you do as a runner.
That's what I'm saying.
Right?
And so he's got his body momentum going forward, doing his slow motion action run, and the fact is, as that hand is coming forwards, it's there already. So I'm not saying, for me, when it goes to VAR, it's not an obvious motion to stop the ball. He's just running forwards. His hand is in this forward position because he's running towards that direction. The game has changed, though. And when I was talking to, I can't remember whether it was somebody, it was probably Robin Work or somebody, whoever it was. The game has changed. The game has changed because I do think there are players who are savvy enough now that if they don't know what to do, they are outnumbered. The defense is there blocking their attempt at goal. Flick it up at the player. And do it on purpose, and I'm sure that's happening more and more and more on the continent.
Do you know what? That's exactly what I thought watching the highlights back when I got home, and I was furious. I was like, "Are you looking for that?"
Because
that for me just makes it even more wrong.
Because it doesn't feel like he's got it on target there.
No,
you can't see the goal in that shot, but obviously,
the issue with this, it highlights the problem with the rule makers. In the modern game, that was a penalty. You have to say it's been given as a penalty. In the modern game, it's a penalty. But exactly for the reason why Dad has just explained, and in this game, you saw a perfect example of what is a handball and what isn't a handball. That isn't a handball. That's a consequence of his movement as part of his natural movement in trying to get back into position. The Jordan James one was a blatant handball. Yeah. So, the issue with this is, I don't blame the referee because he's given it, because nowadays, as soon as there was a VAR check, and the second that there was a suggestion that he went over to the screen, I knew exactly what was coming. Because in the modern game, I'm not saying I agree, I don't think it's right at all, but in the modern game, they're always going to give that, and Daz is absolutely spot on. I think potentially you are getting some players now who are going to just be flicking the ball up deliberately like that, because, what are you supposed to do with your hands? I mean, I find it incredible to when you watch any game now at any level, and you watch the defenders are part of their training and their mentality now is that when they're anywhere in and around the box, they're putting their hands behind their back. It's such an unnatural thing to do.
But you imagine, maybe we should make sure that all attackers have to put their hands behind their backs at the same time whenever they're inside the box, because that's such a disadvantage in terms of momentum shift.
It'll look like the double amputee World Cup, because nobody will have any arms according to the telly. It'll be ridiculous. Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Because so the player's allowed to swing his arms, get his back lift all sorted, it's got fully balanced, and yet Ampadu has to sort of bob along like a penguin. It's not fair, is it?
What's really frustrating about these types of penalties that are given, and like I say, unfortunately now they're becoming all too common. What's really frustrating is the fact that with the benefit of VAR, it's easy to see back that it wasn't a blatant handball. It was a consequence of a natural body movement, and yet they're still, because the rules are telling them so, they're still having to give these as penalties.
As you said, the ref went to the screen. He spent about 10 seconds at the screen, and he came out, and all he gesticulated was, the arm is in this position, so it's a penalty.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the context around it is.
No, but
the arm is physically in this position.
Yeah, I understand. And I understand the larger profile, because, of course, if that was on target and you are making yourself bigger like that and you end up saving it, by default, your hand is saving it, then I can understand why that's given. But he isn't moving it to that position. He's just there. But then I suppose the argument, they will flip side, devil's advocate, they're going to go, well, everybody will just stay with their hands still and make themselves bigger. And if you hit my hand, that's your fault. You've got to get it past me, even though my hands are out. So I get why they're not going to change it. I can get why they're not going to.
But the law of averages does. That's 2 games, 3 handballs. 1 of them legitimate, 2 of them not legitimate. 3 handballs in 2 games. That's against the law of averages. Surely.
I know. I think that's bad luck. I genuinely think that's bad luck. But I think the Belgians made their good luck by playing that tactic. I do think that there was an element of tactic there to, because there's nobody. I don't recall him. There was anybody that he was playing to. He's just lofted it up. He's poked it through. He's hoping and his hand's already there, so it was inevitable. It was inevitable in that sense. So, yeah, I think the rules, the laws, an arse in this situation. I just think it's wrong. It's gone completely wrong. And I think going back on Jamie's point about VAR, he hadn't given this originally. It played on afterwards, and it's only VAR that's brought it back. So in another era, we'd have got away with that one.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I get the frustration, I get it, but I'm also a fan of VAR for all the right reasons. It's just so annoying when VAR.
I'm not. Get rid of it.
Whoa,
get rid of VAR.
A fan of VAR.
No, get rid of it. Get rid of it. It's killing. For me, it's absolutely killing the game, because it's also the fact is that when we scored our first goal, we were all in jubilation, and then suddenly up on the screen comes VAR check, and instantly everybody's going, "What? What for?" It takes away the joy of scoring a goal, because you're instantly thinking, well, I want to celebrate, but I don't want to celebrate too hard, just in case suddenly I'm going to get let down because VAR are going to go, oh, he had a toenail over the line, and so therefore he's offside.
I'm less of a worry about that, because we celebrated the goal, And then when we got the VAR, we celebrated it again. And
Double
it's no,
celebration.
and there's no different to the fact that when you score a goal and you have that jubilation, and then they score against you, you have to have that deflation. I think jubilation, deflation, all of that kind of thing is, for me, I just think it balances it all out in a good game of football. But I think we were just on the wrong side of a really shitty bit of luck, and that's the hard bit to take, because we were competing, we were really doing well in the game.
Absolutely, and you know, the 15 minutes that they obviously, my mate Kev stepped up and scored the penalty to make it 1-1, which dampened the atmosphere but didn't kill it. What killed it was on 23 minutes when Belgium ruthlessly seized control from that point, cutting us to shreds at the back. I know we're going to talk about Doku and what an amazing player is and what a stunning player he is, and I get that, but he's one player. He is not the Belgian team, okay? And we should be able to nullify that. But that's a comment for you guys to make. But you know, he was electrifying as he has been for Man City. He sped clear, he pulled the ball back, and the problem for me with this, Daz, the ball went out wide, but none of our players chased it down.
Ben did. Ben
He
held
came
his
inside,
position.
but he came inside. He didn't go. He didn't try and track it down.
No. But he's holding his position. He knows he's not going to catch Doku. This is Ben, who's getting his 100th cap, by the way. So you know, he's an old man. He is an old man.
That in a minute.
And so on the occasion of his 100th cap, he has to run back and track back one of the fastest players in the Premier League. He's not going to get to the ball first, so he does what every defender is taught: you get back in and you block the line to goal. So he's got himself in the right position. I don't fault Ben in this one. He's holding him up, and he has to hold Doku where he is until support comes back, because he's the only one who's made it back. Because actually, he does put in a bit of a shift to get there. The other defenders, I do think they're assuming the ball's going out of play, but they forget that Doku's absolutely electric, gets to the ball, keeps it in play. So Ben Davies has got to hold him in that corner. He's got to hold him. He says, I can't let you get a shot on goal. So I don't blame Ben. Where the error is, nobody's watching the right, you know, the on the right wing, the overlap, because all the midfields are fast, you know, keeping an eye on the midfields. There's players over on the left hand side, whether it was Trossard or whoever, and then ghosting in. And probably too late then Sorba goes, shit, that's my man, I got to get back, and regrettably Sorba is at fault for not keeping with his man, and he gets too easy you know, he finds the space, a decent pass from Doku, and he just passes it into the goal. And
I'm amazed Meunier's wheelchair wheels didn't get stuck before he hit it, to be fair.
Well, exactly. And there's another, you know, that's another point. There's like another geriatric is actually the one who's sneaking into the box, overlapping, you know. So I think this is where our formation, with whether it's 3 at the back with wing backs, whether it's 4 at the back, and you know, with wingers, if we're going to play this version of our formation, then the wingers are wing backs, and they do have to come back and keep an eye on those overlaps. And generally, I thought, you know, there were good periods of time where Doku was being held up, even if he was being double marked and stuff. But I know what you're saying. He's only one man, but he is by far the best player on that pitch that night.
Oh, absolutely. I know.
By a country mile the best player.
Yeah.
And every time he got the ball, we all stopped breathing. You kind of just go, he's going to do it. He's going to do something. He's going to do something. And I thought we nullified quite a lot of his threat in, you know, and so it did require everybody else to, you know, the rest of the Belgium team to sort of get involved with the goals and stuff. So I do kind of feel for Ben Davies there, because I do think he's doing what you're taught as a defender to do. I just think the rest of the team switched off for that second. They made assumptions whether the ball was going out, or Sorba thought it was going out, and then realized shit. And
it's all too late then, isn't it, to try and
it is, and you're right. By that point, the 2-1 then deflates the team. You know, heads were down a little bit, but
Absolutely.
we're only 1-1. But because it was so quickly after the pen, and having been ahead, you could see that the energy was completely sapped out of the team, and it took them a long time to get back into it. They did. You don't get me wrong; they did get back into it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, they played really, really well. Obviously, got to half time at 2-1 down. Came out for the second half, and I think we're absolutely putting pressure on Belgium. Just weren't quite able to find that finishing stroke. I think Ben Davies going off injured affected us massively. I think that really, because then we had to do a little bit of a formation change, and I think that was a major issue. And then obviously 73 minutes, Jordan James with I don't know what he was thinking, a moment of madness, Jamie.
Yeah.
As you rightly said, if the first one shouldn't have been, this absolutely was. How did he honestly think by not moving his whole shoulder forward while hitting the ball, the ref was not going to go, if he gives the first one, he's definitely going to give the second one.
It was just one of those, you just said it there, moment of madness. It was just one of those instinctive, you know, you could probably put him in that scenario 100 times and he wouldn't do it again. But we've all been in that situation, you know, when playing football or in other, you know, doing other things as well, where you just split second, you know, make the wrong decision and it costs. But it was, like I said before, you know, in the same game was a great example of penalties being given where it's poor rule making and penalties being given where you absolutely cannot argue. He knew straight away, and nobody could have any arguments with it. Like you say, what was he doing? He probably doesn't even know himself. It was just an instinctive moment of madness, and it happens. You know, it happens. I actually thought he had quite a good game, to be fair. So I thought he played really well. You know, I think I've seen him a couple of weeks ago playing against Wrexham for Leicester. You know, and obviously know that he, you know, how kind of good of a player he actually is. But I thought he really played well against for us against Belgium.
Yeah, we've missed him in that middle of the field. You know, we've had so many different versions of that, and I know he's had injuries, and I know he's had suspensions and stuff like that. But he does add so much. But also, I don't know if you noticed, but the number of times he was the overlapping player, he was becoming the extra. You know, so not even Harry Wilson from one side, or you know, it was JJ coming through the middle. He was creating a lot of options. So Harris is holding up players up front, and then it's just space appearing, and the overlap was impressive. There was something quite exciting about it, but I also just don't think they were finding those spare players. There was a number of times Sorba was literally, his heels were on the paint, literally holding the line, keeping the width of the pitch, and there was space to play it. And for whatever reason, the goalkeeper, as much as the back, the defense, weren't finding those wingers properly, or could see them. And maybe Belgium, who am I? I'm not a world-class footballer, but you can see maybe the Belgian defense have got him covered, and so maybe he's not as open as I just thought there was space. And with Sorba's pace, you know, pop it near him, and he'll take them on, and it's going to cut through at some point. You know, more attempts like that, but you know, it was frustrating. It was frustrating.
Well, Cymru 3-1 down. Substitutes then come on. Great for Wrexham that Moore and Broadhead both came on, and they teed up together to score a goal on 88th minute. Moore, with probably, you might say, might be a foul on a Belgian player in the end of the box. It was pretty much a fairly hard shove, but the referee didn't give it. He then took the ball, put a soft cross in to Broadhead, who's inside the box, and Broadhead just hit it. Beautifully found the corner down to the right of Courtois and straight in for 3-2. And I'm going, here we go. There's 2 minutes to go. There's 7 minutes of added time. That's 9 minutes. We have now got the upper hand, because you could see that Belgium were starting to creak a little bit, because they'd also made some changes and they'd taken some fairly strong players off. And I'm thinking, here we go. And then, Daz, what happens? We kick off, and our instability at the back, like in that start of that England game, rears its ugly head again.
Yeah, I mean, it was too easy for the Belgian attack. You know, there was only the three of them. I think we had literally 6 or 7 players back, and you know, whoever's on the left wing for Belgium isn't stopped, isn't brought down, isn't blocked, isn't challenged, whatever. And he plays a very simple ball across the 6-yard line, and he's aiming for whoever's in the center, whoever the centre forward was. But he misses it. He fluffs it, actually. I think he misses the man in the middle. And whoever's marking Trossard at the far post has been tracked towards that attacker in the middle. I think it might have been De Silva or something. He came into the middle of the right into the middle of the box, and they get wrong-footed by this pass that just trickles in front of Trossard, and Trossard just finishes. I mean, he's also very lucky there because it's way too close to the goalkeeper. The keeper has could have saved that. It wasn't when you're that close from goal, and I can't believe you're not putting it in a corner somewhere. He's put it right underneath the goalkeeper, and I don't think it's intentional. So there's a little bit more luck going in their way in many ways in this. And it's not me being bitter because that build up to it, we should have done all sorts of things to stop that getting anywhere near goal. And then you go back to 4-2, which with literally the last minute of the game, and of course they did announce 7 more minutes of time added on afterwards. So if we could have held on to being 3-2 for a couple more minutes,
chance, yeah,
then the 7 minutes goes on, we're probably thinking we're in this. So just to have given away another soft goal. So I think as generally both sides had really strong attacking play and both sides had really poor defenses. It just felt that on the day, the rub of the green went in favour of the Belgian attackers, and ours didn't quite get it because penalties and all of that. But yeah, it's just so frustrating, and yeah, it's hard to take because I do think we could have given them a run. Whether or not we deserve to win, I don't know. You showed some stats earlier. The 60-odd% percentage is very flattering when you consider they had way more number of shots on goal, but they were wild and for speculative shots from so those stats are very flattering. But there were a couple of strikes where a De Bruyne skies it. Doesn't normally do that. There was Trossard put one wide.
I laughed.
I'm sure you
actually
did.
Stood up and I went Wah! Like that. So yeah.
Oh, it was you. Oh, I thought I could hear you. I think they had enough chances and should have done better with the quality of players that they have, but they got themselves into decent positions.
I think it was more. I think it was more disappointing for me because they had drawn 1-1 with North Macedonia on the Friday before. And that's disappointing for me because I'm thinking, if North Macedonia can hold them to 1-1, then why can't we at least hold them to a draw? They're not that good. They're not that good. Let me put it this way, right? We've scored 5 goals past them in 2 games, and we haven't got a single point to show for it.
No, I know.
We're not that bad, and they're not that good, and yet they've walked away with all 6 points.
Yes, but I also think that North Macedonia are much better than people are giving them credit for in terms of in terms of the seeded teams.
Up the North Macedonia massive.
I think they're a stronger team than because we only just did obviously we gifted a goal. We did gift a goal, but
again.
The individual error, but it's hard to take. It's hard to blame him when he's a legend. But I just think that these 3 teams are all much closer than we have to consider. So it is a 3-way race that was going to go to the end potentially. But now obviously Belgium have got the points they need, and they're going to play Kazakhstan and Liechtenstein. So they're pretty much through because
when you look at the table at the moment, Belgium are top with 14 points, North Macedonia second with 13 points, we're third with 10 points, although we have got a game in hand. As you rightly say, Belgium have got to play Liechtenstein and Kazakhstan. That's probably going to be 6 points or maybe 4 at a push. But whatever happens, that'll be enough to get them over the line.
Yeah.
And we have to play Liechtenstein away, which again, you would like to hope that we're going to get a result out of that. The goal difference is so massive as well that now that doesn't even play into it. So even if by a miracle we manage to draw,
no, this is my theory. Again, let me be positive. I've got my glass. It is
glass half full.
Yes, indeed.
It's a plus 12 goal difference, Daz.
Right. Yes, but
please send 10,000 glass half full. That says glass half full, and we'll put your picture on the back.
It's fine. It's fine. Okay, here's my theory, right? Liechtenstein. Why can't we put 6 past them?
Because we'll probably let in 5 trying to do it. That's why.
Okay. That my plan is flawed. Yeah, you're right. No, it's. But do you know what I mean? It's a country that we should be able to compete, and if we can have our attack on fire, then I think we can do. They'll struggle. Yes, you're absolutely 100% correct. If we've got to make sure our defense holds up, right? I'm not saying they're going to score.
If we can
6,
beat Liechtenstein 6-0, then we will play North Macedonia on the same number of points and the same goal difference. So we would only need a point. We'd only need a draw, which we shouldn't be thinking about that anyway. We should be thinking about beating them. I want to talk about what follows on from that in a second. I just want to talk about the couple of points that I think I've got. And this is directly first at both of you. The two bits of the night for me was the tifo, which was brought up by the Red Wall, which Tan and Aguaid, which was fantastic, and then Welshmen will not yield. And then obviously the one thing made me laugh, as you rightly said, Ben had his 100 caps, and there were 50 caps across the board for Kiefer and for Joe Roden, and one cap for the rat. I don't know whether you saw the rat. He was actually directly in front of me on the field, where he came from Courtois' direction, and Courtois, I think, was a little bit scared of the rat, to be honest, because he was like,
how could you not miss it? It was like a Yorkshire Terrier.
He kind of shepherded it to midfield, and then I think it was Nico Williams, who basically then went, let's get you off, and then you saw cameramen scattering because they were absolutely terrified of it.
It went underneath. It ran all the way towards us, and then went underneath where the ball boys were, and they weren't sitting comfortably after that. It was hilarious because we're quite close to the front. No, I think it was doing an audition for the Footy Home Scran review, and I think going around all the burger and hot dogs, and I think the rat doesn't think the Cardiff City ones are much better than Wembley. I think is what I gather.
I think you're right. Yeah. Although the guy next to me did turn to me and he goes, "What's Kevin Ratcliffe doing on the pitch?" Which I thought was very good for
my son was saying, "What's Bruno Fernandes doing there?" So everybody's got a version. Everybody's got a version of that one. It's great. It's great.
If he makes his way down to Wembley, I'm sure they'll put him on a bun and charge £10.80 for him.
They probably would. One question I want to ask you, Daz, and it was somebody that asked me as I was walking out. I was having a conversation. I spoke to you, and when I was waiting in the car park, because you have to wait an hour to get out of the car park. I was having a conversation with somebody, and they were saying they were quite angry. I think they were a little bit drunk, but they were quite angry, and they were saying, the problem that Wales have as a nation is that we have been spoiled since 2016 because we've had Gareth Bale. And as soon as Gareth Bale left, we lost that player who had that X factor who could get us over the line. We don't have that player anymore, which means we always start to fall short. And I kind of had a thing with him. I was careful because he was drunk, but I was kind of thinking, I said, no, I think that's simplifying it massively, because there were times there when Gareth played where we didn't get over the line and he didn't, hit the X factor. Yeah. Yes, he did get us out of trouble sometimes, but he wasn't that player who basically guaranteed you to get to a tournament or to get to whatever. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Am I right, or was he right?
I don't think you can rely on one player in all of those times. So as much as Gareth got us over the line in those situations, don't forget we also had a Ramsey on fire. We had a Joe Allen, we had a Joe Ledley, we had other players consistently playing top flight football. Arsenal, Liverpool. Then it wasn't all, but what you needed was just that little bit of extra, and Bale could give it to you. Not every time though. He didn't do it every time, but he did it enough times. Yes, his dead ball specialism was really good, and we've got that. I suppose I'd like to see Harry Wilson and even Nico, can be a little bit more consistent, but they've got it in the locker. So I think we've got those options. But what I like is that all it takes is for Bale to be injured, and don't forget he had back injuries, he had knee injuries, he had all sorts. Yep. So there were games we didn't know how to unlock a team without him. I think what's more positive at the moment is that, Brooks to me is one of those players who can absolutely turn it on and be the flair player. I love the fact that Sorba isn't frightened of taking on, one-on-one. It's what Brennan Johnson needs to do more of, but he's not that kind of winger, I understand, but he needs to take people on more. But it's quite exciting to see, fast wingers take on, defenders who are, backtracking, and then you've got your Ampadu's and you've got your JJs in the middle, or generals who are marshalling their physical. There's something really quite nice about it. So I like the fact that we've got strength not quite world-class international superstar strength in one position. I quite like it that we've got strength in lots more positions. And if we then have to change a player for another player, I'm not saying they're all like for like, but I don't think it disrupts the team in quite the same way. So I think it's actually a better position to be in. I think we can be more consistent. I appreciate that we haven't proven that yet, but we've made recent tournaments. We've, with I know with Bale and everything like that, he got us there to the first one, first World Cup. But we've been to other tournaments and we've not had to rely on Bale all the time. I think he's being a little bit unfair. I do think he's being a little unfair, and I do think that if we can find some consistency in our defence. So Rodon was a monster. I thought he had a great game again. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. Ben is probably getting to the stage where he's there because he's a brilliant leader. He's there because he's got experience. He's not a left back anymore. He's a brilliant, left side of
centre,
left side of centre. So if we can find ourselves somebody to be Connor's understudy and Nico's understudy and more consistent. I mean, don't forget, Nico can play left or right. He plays right as a club fullback, but he plays left because Connor plays right. So we've got that option. But when Connor's injured, Nico goes to right. Ben can play left, but it's not his chosen. But
no.
I think if we have a little bit more strength in those fullbacks, then I think we've got options. Then we've got potential if we've got those options, I think.
Well, Cymru are pretty much guaranteed a playoff place now. The difference now being is that if we stay where we are in third, we would qualify as one of the top 4 Nations League winners, which means we would go into seeded pot 4, which means potentially we would have to play Italy to get through to the World Cup. Whereas if we can finish in second, we would be going to pot B, which means we could play a Moldova, for example, to get. So it is a massive, massive difference. So I think the second place is very, very important. And obviously, the next international window will be next month, and we will talk, obviously, then about the game versus Liechtenstein and North Macedonia at that point. I want to ask you both an open question, just for the last one. Obviously, we are, the Bellamy era is, kind of 18 months in nearly from that point of view. Very, very excited to start off, absolutely felt that you had a freshness and a more attacking wise. And then we've kind of hit this qualifier and we've started to falter a little bit with some, a draw against North Macedonia. But as you say, North Macedonia not to be whatever, but the 1-0 loss against Canada, the 3-0 loss against England, now this loss against Belgium. Are both of you still excited by the Bellamy era, or do you think, well, we can't get carried away? There needs to be some check and balance because you feel that maybe Bellamy's way isn't the way that Cymru need to play.
Do you want to go first, Jay?
I mean, I think we've still got to try and be positive with, Bellamy at the helm. And remembering at the start of when he took charge and the change in style between what we'd seen under Robert Page, look at the risk of starting World War III and kind of just following on a little bit from the conversation that you just had with Daz a minute ago about the whole what your drunken friend said and Bale and all that jazz. I have got a bit of a rhetorical question in my head from the point of view of I don't necessarily agree that it was all Bale. Daz just made a brilliant point about the fact that you had a flying Ramsey and there were a Joe Allen. There were other players alongside Gareth Bale, but he was the superstar, wasn't he? I think what Gareth Bale did was he brought the best out of our better players at the time as well, and I think. What you've lost with Gareth Bale is you've lost that talisman that will bring out the best of others. So you kind of double edge. You lost twice, if that makes sense. And I have to be brutally honest. At this moment in time, I think when Bellamy first took over, the players whether they were just on a cloud nine, whether it was just a fresh impetus because he was a breath of fresh air over what they'd had on the page. I don't know, but without being ultra critical, I have to be honest. I just don't think we're that good at the minute. I'm sorry to be so blunt, but I just don't think we're that good. I think we're massively. I think we're being massively optimistic about the quality of some of our players, if I'm being honest, and that's maybe sounds a little bit brutal, but I look back at this qualifying campaign, and I think, yeah, it's a bit meh, And as much as we were talking before about playing England in case we get to World Cups and things like that, I don't know. I think we've got a good chance still of qualifying. But it's going to depend on obviously what happens, where we finish, because like you say, that'll dictate what pot we end up in.
We have to be second. We can't finish third, because we finish third, we're in that bottom pot, and you take on and there are some terrifying teams potentially who are going to be in those playoffs where we are going to absolutely struggle. The thing
that worries me, right, is if you go back to what was was it 2016, the tournament where we got to the semis. If you go back to that tournament, and that to me epitomised what I was just saying a minute ago about Bale and the other players riding that crest of that wave, right? And that was amazing as a nation to follow and follow along with that. It was an amazing experience. But then you look at Qatar, and we went through the whole qualifying thing to get to this tournament, and it was poor. And that's my only thing with this is that it feels like we are scraping by our nails to try and get to qualify for this World Cup. But then you have to ask yourself the question: what is the likely outcome going to be if we got there?
Yeah, but you have to be careful, because you can't say we don't want to go to a tournament finals because we're just not going to be good enough. You should always be aiming to be there, because you could be there, you're then playing these sides, and you're going to lift your level. From that point of view.
Of course, you want to be at these tournaments. I'm just maybe at the risk of having dog shit sent to me. I'm just like I say, it's a rhetorical question.
What's your address again? Sorry.
But 1 Chester Street, Chester. It's just maybe it's the pessimist in me. It's the glass half empty version of the podcast.
You're perfectly entitled to your opinion, Jamie. I'm glad, no matter how deluded and odd it is. It's fine.
I'm glad you mentioned the drunk man's opinion, because I was going to ask you both the question about what are you're much closer to it than I am. Yes, I'm a Welsh fan. I'll watch the games, but you two are much, much closer to it than I am. I've got a much better perspective on it than I have. But from what I've seen, I just have a genuine question, not for discussion now, but it's a genuine question about, I just don't think our squad is that good.
Daz, let's ask you the question about how you feeling the Bellamy era is going.
Good. I don't mind it being a few defeats here and there, especially if 2 of them are friendlies. So that's okay. I would say losing to the number 4 team in the world. That's what's wrong with that? What's the surprise in that? Belgium is something like number 8 in the world. So we weren't supposed to be anywhere near them. We're what, 30 something?
Something like that, I think, yeah. Early 30s.
Canada at 26, 24, something like that. So, so they were always meant to be a stronger team than us. So the fact that we matched Canada, who are slightly better than us, 1-0. It took one free kick.
Yeah.
Okay, so that there's the bench. There's the difference. England had a brilliant half an hour. Okay, we never quite know how good England could have been in the second half if they hadn't taken the foot off the gas, but we did improve. But they are the 4th best team in the world, so of course we were going to be up against it. And Belgium, they're a good side. They're the number 1 seed in our group. They were expected to be winning the group. oh, what a surprise, they're winning the group. So none of that is a surprise for me. So I think the realism, the sort of the pragmatic side of me is going, we are exactly where I imagine we would be, competing for the second place. If you asked me at the beginning, well, you probably did ask me at the beginning of once we've had the draw, it's going to be a playoff between us and North Macedonia, because the last game of the tournament of this qualifying stage is between the two of us. So we knew this game was going to be significant. And look at it. It looks like it's going to be. So I think it's absolutely in line with expectation of where we are in the world. We're not a big team. We're not. But what is quite good is that of all the small nations, we are consistently in the mix. We're having this conversation, and I quite like the fact that people don't want to play us. I don't think they want to play us. They know that coming to Cardiff is a tough gig. So I don't know. I mean, Austria and Denmark and all these countries where you think, are they good? Well, they are. They've got a history about them. They're all in the 20, ranked higher than us. So if we can be those teams that I think we're in that group. I think we're in those groups that could make a tournament in any given year, but they don't make every tournament. And I think that's great. We have never had this level of consistency.
We remember the bad old days, Daz, where literally, we would always start with high hopes, and then 2 matches in, you're already thinking
tournament's over.
Right, so when's the next qualification for the next one? Because this is now gone.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And I just think that yes, we've had success. Don't forget, 2016 is 9 years and more ago. Right, none of those players, apart from Danny Ward, who's not in the squad at the moment, and I think Ben. I think we've established it's just 2 players left from the squad. So it's a different team, different era, and yet we're still pushing consistently in the mix. Nations League is a good format for us, I think, because when we're doing, we're just not quite consistent to stay in the A's, but we're clearly a good team in the B's. So that's our level. Now, if we can get a good run together and just time it that we qualify and get one of our ups rather than one of the downs, you never know. But there are plenty of teams that should have achieved and never have. You look at Portugal; it's taken them decades to get to the point where they've now won a Euros, and then they've now won a Nations League, and they've had a superstar throughout all that time. But I don't think it's because of him. Recently, they've done much better because he's. There's loads of different factors. I, as you can tell, I'm still optimistic, positive, and I think we're okay. When we get to the World Cup, that is going to be a challenge.
Absolutely, yeah. And we should change your tag to glass half full and Jamie's tag to glass half empty, just to absolutely outline exactly where you two are coming from. But yeah, you're right. I think the important bit, though, Daz and Jamie, is we need to get there. It's being on the world stage. And then from there, and you're absolutely right, Jamie. Qatar was awful, was dreadful. I mean, it was dreadful because it was in Qatar for a start. That is not the tournament for us to first qualify for a World Cup finals. I'm hoping that America, Mexico, Canada would be much more exciting and much more accessible. Although probably you'd have to sell a kidney to be able to get there. Now, the Eat More Chips podcast, it's time for today's newspaper, tomorrow's chip paper, where we catch up on Cymru and Wrexham football news. First up, Cymru Women have announced their squad for the up-and-coming friendlies versus Australia and Poland. And Wales great Jess Fishlock will end her international career in the friendly against Australia this month, while 8 players are set to begin their own careers within the national side. Manager Rhian Wilkinson will also be missing 8 players who were in her Euro 2025 squad for the friendly doubleheader against the Matildas on the 25th of October at Cardiff City Stadium, and then Poland on the 28th of October at Newport's Rodney Parade. As well as being without championship debutantes last summer, Wilkinson is unable to call on 7 players she selected in her squad for the Switzerland showpiece due to injury, with another having already retired. Josie Green, Ella Powell, Rhiannon Roberts, Lily Woodham, Rachel Rowe, Sophia Kelly, who has yet to make her Cymru debut despite her Euro 2025 selection, and Esther Morgan are all currently sidelined with injury. That opens the way for 8 uncapped players: Mia Ross, Anne Wilding, Gwen Zimmerman, Scarlett Hill and Amy Richardson getting their first squad call-ups, while Poppy Soper, Tegan Scarlett and Tiana Tazar are also hoping to win their first Cymru cap. Forward Katie Barton announced her retirement from all football in August, and the up-and-coming international window will be the first Cymru camp without her involvement. So the squad in full: Olivia Clark, Safia Milton-Patel, Poppy Soper, Kerry Holland, Amy Richardson, Annie Wilding, Anna Philby, Hayley Ladd, Gemma Evans, Gwen Zimmerman, Charlie Escort, Tegan Scarlett, Sophie Ingle, Alice Griffiths, Mia Ross, Anghara James, Scarlett Hill, Lois Joel, Jess Fishlock, Carrie Jones, Tiana Tazar, Marid Griffiths, Hannah Kane, Fionn Morgan, Elsie Hughes, and Mary McAteer. We'll talk about Jess Fishlock in a second. Daz, so that's 8 players who are basically coming in with a fresh. Do you feel this is a kind of a defining moment for the national women's side to, you know, a new level, a new internees coming in and a fresh start?
Yeah, we've been talking that the turn was imminent. I think we've seen quite a few, you know, the beginning of those retirements, the beginning of some of those classic first names on the team sheet sort of names were beginning to sort of either not make it because they were injured, not make it because they were, you know, they decided to retire. You know, even Jess has struggled to make fitness for games. You know, I appreciate she's a phenomenal athlete and all of that, but you know, the squad announcements have been varied, you know, a few extra faces here and there, but I think you're right. This is probably the biggest wholesale change they've had in a while, and I think it's good to do it now whilst these youngsters need to meet Jess. They need to have trained with Jess. They need to have worked with Sophie Ingle. They, you know, these Centurions who have absolutely been ambassadors for the game in Wales. You know, top flight players playing their you know, club sides around the world, if not in the WSL. So I think it's good for these youngsters to experience that before there is no more Jess at a Welsh camp. I sense there's always going to be a place for her, though. I think management is definitely on the cards for her in the future. Whether or not an assistant role with Wilco is the future, but I can't see there any harm in bringing somebody of her legendary status, but also her experience, her worldliness, and her professionalism. You know, when you think about the game that she joined for the first, you know, the version of the Welsh squad that she joined originally to now where it is, what are we talking? 19 years, something like that. It's leagues away, literally, you know, decades, but leagues away from what it used to be. And so what she can bring in terms of that wisdom and that experience is so valuable. So we don't want to lose it, but it's good that we've still got the likes of Hayley Ladd, we've still got the likes of Sophie Ingle in that team. And yet we've got some, you know, some stalwarts in, you know, Hannah James and so forth. So, you know, Kerry Holland's been absolutely top player for most of the games in the last campaign. So we've got some good players. If you ask me about the new incoming batch, I have no idea. I don't know enough of the game of that, you know, in that way. So I'm excited to see what they bring, and it would be interesting to see how Wilco deploys them, whether it's 1 or 2 at a time, use the friendlies and just go for it. I think unlikely, but do you know what I mean? There's options here whilst it's still friendlies, but whilst she kind of has to rebuild a team, because the Euro experience, as much it was an amazing time to see Welsh football at the top table, it showed how far we've still got to go as a nation. But then we were in a group of death. So I don't think that's a true reflection. If anybody wants to sort of start having that conversation, I'm happy to. But it's not a true reflection of what the Welsh side is. But they were definitely the 4th best team in that group. But it's a bit unfair to say they didn't deserve to be at that major tournament because they didn't win. They only got the 1 goal or whatever. It's irrelevant. I think that was such a poison chalice. I think Wales can come back in, you know, as a stronger team, that from having a better experience of having experienced it. And there's enough players in that squad that experienced it as well to be able to sort of carry on that and learn from that.
Well, as I said, the sad news this week is that Cymru's greatest footballer not just female footballer. Jess Fishlock has announced her intention to retire from international football. The 38-year-old is Cymru's record goal scorer with 48 international goals, and she will play her 166th and final Cymru game in the friendly against Australia next week. The Seattle Reign midfielder became the oldest scorer at the Women's European Championships this summer, and Cymru's first at a major finals in the 4-1 defeat by France in Euro 2025. Jess started her career with her hometown club Cardiff City Ladies, making her first team debut at 15. Although coming through Cymru's age group team, she made her senior debut against Switzerland in 2006. Games and goals flowed until in April 2017, Fishlock became the first Wales footballer, male or female, to win 100 caps. And in July 2024, she became our leading international goal scorer, claiming her 45th goal. The crowning point of her career came with Cymru qualifying for that first appearance at a major women's tournament as Liam Wilkinson's side reached that Euro 2025 championship. Although Cymru would come away from Switzerland without the win from their 3 group games, fittingly, it was Jess who scored their first goal in the game against France, and in process became the oldest scorer in women's Euro finals history at 38 and 176 days. Fishlock's club football has taken her around the world, playing for Dutch side AZ Alkmaar, Melbourne Victory in Australia, Seattle Reign in the United States, plus Glasgow, Frankfurt and Lyon, winning Champions League with each of the latter 2 sides. Jamie, this day was always coming. We didn't want it to, as fans of Welsh football, but we knew it was coming. Very, very sad day, but we have to look back at the incredible player that she's been for the nation.
Absolutely. I've heard you say it a couple of times. You know, I think you have to put gender to one side when you're talking about someone like this and look at what their contribution is to, you know, Welsh international football. I think you called it yesterday. You know, obviously people refer to Gareth Bale as the greatest and everything else, but you know, his numbers are eclipsed by what Jess has done. I mean, what a career! What an unbelievable career to play, to still be playing at a high level at the age that she's at. You know, you got to remember, this is an elite athlete. You know, this is not just this is not just messing around. So to be able to still be playing at the level that she has done at the age that she's at and still produce as well is unbelievable. You know, like you say, it is a sad day. It's always a sad day when players have to retire, but unfortunately the body can only do so much. But what an unbelievable contribution and legacy that she'll leave behind. And I mean, 166 caps is just ridiculous. You know, to have played for your country 166 times. I mean, where on earth she's putting all them, God only knows. You know, she must have a wall full of caps. But no, I really hope, and I would be very, very surprised if the Welsh FA don't look to try and keep her involved in some capacity. But I suppose it depends on what her aspirations are. I mean, this is just a retirement from international football, isn't it? It's not a retirement from football. So I guess she feels that she's still got some fuel in the tank for domestic game. But yeah, this what else can you say? Absolute legend, brilliant.
The draw for the Adran Trophy was made this week with some incredible ties coming up. Of course, the one we're looking at is Wrexham AFC Women, which will face Llandudno FC on Sunday, 9th of November, being drawn against the Gennaro Adran North side in the Gennaro Adran Trophy last 16. Last season, the Red Dragons progressed to the semi-finals of the Gennaro Adran Trophy, having claimed victories over Cwmbran Celtic and Barrytown United. Wrexham and Llandudno haven't met since 2023 in the Adran North, where Wrexham won 5-0. Ex-Wrexham Women's player and current co-coms Mia Roberts plays for Llandudno. Other fixtures which are of great interest: Cardiff City versus Swansea City versus Cardiff Met. Got them wrong way around. I think will be a fantastic one. And Aberystwyth Town versus Felinheli is quite an interesting one as well. Jamie, first to you. Wrexham Llandudno. This is going to be quite a tasty game, this, isn't it?
Mia Roberts derby. Get in. Yeah, I mean, you know, look, it's like you say, tasty. It's a local derby, isn't it? It's it's two teams. You know, it's very much one of those. I think it's very much one of those where Llandudno are going to be very much treating this as like a giant killing opportunity. So they'll be well up for it. And, we've seen bits and pieces of Llandudno. They've got some good players, they play some good stuff. And I think from what I remember, I think they're quite free scoring as well. So, I think we haven't got the luxury, have we, of having the squad depth to be able to change complete teams. So I think whatever team she goes with for this, it will be strong. I suspect she'll make a few changes, but yeah, it'll be a good one to look forward to, I think, because like you say, there will be a little bit of stake on it. Yeah.
And Daz, as me and you are living in South Wales at the moment, Llanelli versus Pontypridd, that will be quite tasty, I think. Barry versus Cascade. I know from historical, these two do not like each other. And as I just said, Aber versus Felinheli. 3 cracking games. I mean, thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, Felinheli doing well in the league, Adrian North. So that's going to be a tough one. I think you're okay with Llandudno. Llandudno have not had the best start to their North campaign this year.
Yeah, they're not top. They're not, because Connors Kia are currently top, aren't they? So
yeah,
Llandudno aren't bossing the league that they have done in previous.
No, but Cardiff Met are the sort of the prime team of the South, which we would know because they only just got relegated from the Adran Premier, in the summer. So we know that there's some tough games out there. But yeah, I think Felinheli, I think Aberystwyth are going to be in for a tough test. But by having the home draw, what was interesting for me with the draw is 6 out of the 8 games are the Premier team have got the home draw. Llanfair and Llanelli are the only 2 that have got a home, from the other divisions. So I think it could be a tough game for the New Saints. I think Ponty won't want to go to Llanelli. That's not the place to go.
That for me has the potential, I think, because of the way Ponty are at the moment.
Yeah,
and Llanelli actually are fairly strong in the south.
Yeah, but it's a chance for Ponty to sort of hopefully get some confidence back into their team, because they're not going to get it.
We saw it last season, didn't we? In this very round where Cardiff Met were the only Prem team to go out because they were suffering quite badly. So yeah,
definitely. So it'll be interesting to see. So some like I say, Swansea City against Cardiff Met there's some potential there, but I would imagine the majority of the except for Pontypridd, I think the majority of those Prem teams should see themselves through. But let's see.
Sweep the floors and change the best before dates. It's time for the chip shop. Jamie and Daz are back to serving domestic portions of footy punditry. Let's look at last week's predictions. And we were all fairly pretty rubbish, let's be honest. I mean, Jamie obviously was correct with the England result. And as he said, he was very close to actually hitting a bullseye from that point of view. Daz obviously correctly predicted that England would win as well, and I obviously, because I am a true Welshman, unlike these 2 plastic Welshmen, I obviously got no points at all. Wrexham Women was the surprise, because we kind of, Jamie and myself predicted a Wrexham win, Daz predicted a Cardiff win, and it was a draw in the end. So everybody we all missed the boat on that one. And then the Cymru Belgium, Daz and I predicted a draw. Jamie predicted Cymru win, and none of us got any points on that. So it's as you were, Jamie and Daz still knocking boots at 1 and 2, and me definitely in 3rd. So first is the Friday tonight. It's Stoke City. So Wrexham play Stoke City on Saturday the 18th of October, kick-off 3 p.m. BST at the Bet365 Stadium. Another one of the historic British clubs, Stoke City, formed a year before Wrexham in 1863. They started the 21st century in League One, were promoted to the Championship in 2002, then promoted to the Premiership in 2008, before being relegated back to the Championship in 2018, where they've been ever since. Last year, they finished in 18th place with 12 wins, 15 draws, 19 losses, a goal difference of -17 and 51 points, 2 points off relegation. In the summer and the transfers, they had a net spend of £2 million, where they bought midfielder Thomas Rigo from Banik Ostrava for £3.5 million, Lamine Cisse from SC Bastia for 2 million, and Maxim Talarov from Plymouth Argyle for 1.5 million. So far this season, Stoke are in fourth in the league with 4 wins, 3 draws, 2 losses, goal difference of +6 and 15 points, which is 4 points off the top. The last 5 results, however, have been a little bit more spotty. A 1-0 win at home to Birmingham City, a 1-0 loss away at Queen's Park Rangers, a 1-1 draw at home to Norwich City, a 0-0 draw away at Middlesbrough, and a 1-1 draw away at Blackburn Rovers. Wrexham versus Stoke's head-to-head, not good for Wrexham. In 17 meetings, Wrexham have only ever won once, which was in 1999 when they were both in League Two. However, the last time we met Stoke was in the 3rd round of the FA Cup in 2015. I was there, fantastic game, and I really thought we were going to pull it off. They were a Prem side at the time. We were in non-league, and even though there were 97 places between us, we really put in a shift and put the pressure on them. On loan keeper Flat from Wolves pulled off some incredible saves, keeping us in the game. 73 minutes, up steps the beast Mark Carrington with a bullet header to put us 1-0 up. And we're thinking, hello, we might do this. And then Stoke piled on the pressure, scored in the 80th, 82nd and 90th minute to win the game 3-1. And the chips are done. So Jamie, away, first game back after the international break. Stoke City, who are in fourth, but have misfired a little bit recently. What are your feelings about this?
Well, on paper, this has got a draw written all over it because both teams have drawn their last 3 games.
Yes, yes.
I mean, look, it's. I think, as we've alluded to when we've been talking in recent weeks about the Championship games, there are no easy games in this league, as what I've learned in the first couple of months. Home or away, there are no easy games. No matter where these teams are in the league, I don't believe that there's such a thing as a guaranteed 3 points or an easy game. I also don't think you'll have many instances where you'll see teams scoring by big margins. I think a lot of the games that are played will be very close. From our point of view, I think the challenge with this one on Saturday is pace, which they possess going forward in abundance. I think from what I've kind of seen, heard and listened to about Stoke is that they are quite solid at the back, but they struggle to score goals. That seems to be the long and short of it. However, they have got a lot of pace going forward. Obviously, Sober Thomas we know well. I forget the guy's name on the other side, but their 2 kind of wide players are their threat. So I think the concern is that if they score first, because by all accounts they can defend. So if they score first and then we have to come out at them, best case scenario is that we can score first. Ultimately, you have to go on the season so far, don't you? You have to say that the Wrexham have been they've been better away from home than they have at home. So maybe a bit misguided, but I've kind of got a bit more confidence going into this game with it being away from home than I would have if it was a home game. But it's one of them. It could be 2 teams that just cancel each other out, and it'd be a very scrappy game. Because I think, again, from what I've kind of heard and listened to about Stoke, is I think we've got a lot of similarities in the way we play. Obviously, you've got Mark Robbins now, who's in charge of Stoke, who I dare say will still be reeling a little bit from when we beat them in Coventry in the Cup. But I think it'll be a good atmosphere. I've been to the Bet365 once. It's bloody freezing. I think even if it was in the middle of a heat wave, it'd still be cold. It's like the Mold Road times 100. But I think it's more or less sellout. So you're talking 27, 28,000. Be a good away support. So it should be a cracking atmosphere. I'm confident. I'm feeling quite confident about the game because of what we've seen away from home this season. But I'm certainly not. I'm certainly not writing Stoke off at all.
Daz, Wrexham players obviously rested. Moore and Broadhead firing really, really well in the last game against Belgium, which has got to be good news for Wrexham, potentially, if they can get them both on the pitch at the same time. However, Stoke have got Silver Thomas, as we've said, we've seen he's dangerous on the wing. They've arguably got the best keeper in the league, if you look at it, because he is absolutely stunning. Are Wrexham kind of, because obviously away from home, we seem to be doing quite well at the moment. It just seems to be the home form which is rubbish. Are we going to carry that on, do you think, against Stoke, or do you think this is going to be a bit of bridge too far because they are doing quite well at the moment?
Yeah, they're a tough. They're a side that are proving themselves to be real contenders, aren't they? They're a bit of a surprise in that sense. I know they've got the pedigree, but there were other teams that we all thought were going to take this league on. Really, whether it's your Middlesbroughs, Coventry's, Leicester's, Southampton stuff. I don't think I had Stoke anywhere near that in that conversation, really. So for them to be doing quite well, your man there's done a good job steadying them after a turbulent time with managers. So I think there's confidence there. They're a hard team to beat by the looks of things. So it's just whether or not you can protect your conceding is the issue here. I think you won't get many chances to score against them, and so yes, even with it really firing on all cylinders, Kiefer or Nathan is going to give you a good shout. I don't know. They clearly are a good side, whether it's through their defense or whether it's their quality goalkeeper. It's the stats suggest a really, really tough one. So you've got the Arsenal. It's just whether or not you can not concede, and I think that's going to be the crux of this game, I think.
So time for the salt, vinegar and sauce Koch. Jamie, what's your score prediction for Stoke City versus Wrexham?
Like I said, I think the safe money would be a draw, but when have I ever been safe? No, I'm going to be confident. Like I say, I'm going to be confident on the back of our away performances this season. I think it's going to be very close, very tight, but I'm going to go for a 2-1 Wrexham win.
Nice. Daz, what's your score prediction for Stoke City versus Wrexham?
See, I got it in my head that you were going to say 1-1. I thought you were going to go for 1-1.
To be fair, I'll say now, my draw option, if I was going to go for a draw, my draw option was 2-2, not 1-1. But I think we're going to have enough to. Yeah,
I know. See, I'm not sure. I mean, I was going to go for 1-1, and all the bookies have got Stoke down for the win. All the bookies have.
The bookies are never wrong.
Well, don't bet against the house that often, do you?
Not at the 365 stadium.
Well, this is it. You know what I mean? So I you know what? In the interest of making this league, let's go for a Stoke win, 2-1.
And I'm predicting Stoke City 1, Wrexham 1. I agree with you two. I think it's going to be a draw. I really do. I think it's, we've had 3 draws. They've had 3 draws. I think they're quite tight. I think we're quite tight. I think we will cancel each other out. Having watched the game against Leicester, and I saw how we did in that, I think it's going to be very, very similar. And although Stoke are 4th, I think that's flattering to deceive, because if you look at their last set of results, they initially started off like an absolute bull in a china shop, but since then they've definitely been blunted a little bit. So I think that's going to be it. So I think a draw.
Can you imagine if it's 1-1 with 10 minutes to go, the 3 of us on the messaging going, you've got a chance for a bullseye, and we're both looking at one goal
exactly to push it.
Well, somebody's dropping points.
Absolutely. So it'll probably be me, but that's the way it is. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And last into the fryer, it's Oxford United. Wednesday, 22nd of October, kick-off 7:45 p.m. GMT at the Stoke Kairos. Wrexham welcome Oxford United. Topsy-turvy time for Oxford United. Started the century in League 2, dropped into non-league, came back into League 2 in 2011, then League 1 in 2016. Oxford put in a decent run together in the 23-24 season, getting them into the playoffs. They beat Peterborough United in the semi-finals to set up a Wembley date versus Bolton Wanderers in those finals, and against all odds, they won that game 2-0 to get promoted to the Championship. Last season, they managed to avoid going straight back down, finishing 17th with 13 wins, 14 draws, and 19 losses, a goal difference of -16 and 53 points. In the summer, they signed Brian de Kiesmacher from Dutch side Herelles Almelo and Brodie Spencer from Huddersfield Town, although apparently they have a net spend of 0 because it doesn't list how much these players cost. So whether they came in on a free or whether they didn't disclose how much it was, I don't know. But their net spend this summer has been £0. So far this season, Oxford United have struggled, currently in the relegation zone 22nd. 1 win, 3 draws, 5 losses, a goal difference of -3 and 6 points. Their last 5 results, drew 2-2 at home to Leicester City, beat Bristol City away 3-1, lost at home to Sheffield United 1-0, drew 0-0 away at Queen's Park Rangers, and a 2-1 loss away at Watford. And the chips are done. So, Daz, I know how much you love doing midweek predictions before you've seen the result of the Saturday predictions, but Oxford United do seem like a side where we're at home. I know we have these problems winning at home, but this is surely a side we have to get a win.
Yes. I think these. If you want to even, I'm not even talking about contention here, and if you want to stay consolidated within this division, you have to beat those 4 or 5 teams that are going to be struggling, and you have to keep yourself clear of them. So the fact that you're 18th, do you say 18th in the league against a team that's 20th, 21st, or whatever, these are the games you have to win. So simple as.
I mean, Jamie, a Wednesday night, thanks Sky, at the Stoke Kairas. We've talked numerous times about what on earth is going on, because we've gone from basically banking on home wins to now not having any home wins at all, certainly in the league. Do you think this is where it's going to change?
Yeah, thanks, Sky, because it's a Wednesday night. I can't go because I'm working. I think it's going to change. I hope so. You just used terminology there about must win. Daz was saying must win from the point of view of beating those teams in and around you. I think it sounds a little bit extreme to be saying must win at this stage of the season, but I actually do agree with that sentiment, but probably from a slightly different perspective. I think it's a must win because of Oxford and the position that they're in and the position that they're likely to be in come the end of the season, i.e. that towards the bottom of the league. This is a game really that we have to win at home. More than anything else, just to get that monkey off our back of not winning a home game so far in the league, because we've got the Stoke game first, then we've got this Oxford game, then we've got 2 tough games, then 1 away, 1 at home, Middlesbrough and Coventry, two tough games. I agree with the sentiment that it's must win. But more so from the perspective of I think it's must win because we need to get our home form up and running this season.
So time for the salt, vinegar and sauce core. Daz, what's your score prediction for Wrexham versus Oxford United?
I've got a Wrexham win. And it's just, I think we've probably all got a Wrexham win this week. So I think the score is going to be crucial for the bullseye here. I'm going to go for 2-1.
Nice. Jamie, what's your score prediction for Wrexham versus Oxford United?
2-0 Wrexham. I think we'll keep a clean sheet on this one.
That was
nice.
My other one.
I'm predicting Wrexham 3, Oxford United 1. Completely agree with you. I think this is where we need to make a statement, and that's why I've made it 3-1 rather than 2-1. I think we need to absolutely stamp our authority on this. And I think that we've not had a signature win yet this season, and I think it's time we start putting it in. So a lot will ride, obviously, as we've said before, on what happens on Saturday. If we do fairly decent against Stoke, then I think we'll be more confident going into this game. If we get a battering against Stoke, I think it becomes more difficult. But we can't do anything about that, so that's what I'm predicting. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And we'll be looking back at both these games in next week's pod. So there we go. Another week over. Next week we'll look back at the 2 Wrexham games versus Stoke City and Oxford United before an absolute bumper week where Wrexham go to the Riverside to play Middlesbrough. That then all-important round 4 League Cup clash versus Cardiff City at home on the Tuesday. Wrexham Women travel to the West Wales Riviera to play Aberystwyth Town in the Adran Premier. And Cymru Women have a double-header friendly, first the CCS versus the Matildas Australia. Women pays a visit, and then over to Newport to welcome Poland Women 3 days later. Obviously, please leave us your comments, questions, as you always do on YouTube, or email eatmorechipspodcast, all one word, @gmail.com, because we always welcome them with comments on whatever it is. Of course, couldn't do this without these 2 legends. And I know we use the word legend really loosely these days, but they are, of course, legends, i.e. nobody believes they really exist and they think they're AI generated. So, thank you, Daz.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Jamie.
Christ, I'd be worried if I was AI generated.
I've been Welsh Techie, and I'm definitely not AI generated. So until next time, come on, Cymru! Oh, and see you in Stoke, and come on the town.
Clinton, 4-0. Thomas, after like a goal. That's number 5.
He's it through to Bellamy. Craig Bellamy. It's 2-1 Wales. Craig Bellamy. Tony Hughes for Wrexham into the lead.
And that's it! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are the FA Trophy winners 2013!
Alex Cross, great ball! Equaliser! Elliot Lee! Back to back to back promotions. Oh, can you believe it?
The Eat More Chips Podcast!